My name's Tracey Train and I'm Principal of Mackenzie Thorpe Centre in Middlesbrough. Some of the cues that a child might be masking in class can be quite broad really, and at times really difficult in a mainstream setting particularly to pick up on. If you imagine, you may have 30 children in that setting, all very unique and all with their very own learning needs. Some of the things you may be looking for is the child who they may sit quiet at first to go unnoticed within that setting, not be on the radar at all. They just literally want to sit there and just become part of the background noise, as it were. But parents may report that when that child's at home, they're a very, very different child. They're very chatty, they're very outgoing, so you're seeing two very different people. Another thing is that a child may initially just observe the surroundings, what's going on, looking at the peer group. They have a little bit of a self-realisation that maybe their interests and the way they interact with other people is a bit different to the people around them. So sometimes they might just watch and look around them, but then you might see them start to mimic the peers and start to copy the peers, and that can be anything from the way they interact with one another. It could be from copying makeup, clothes, interests specifically, because sometimes many young people feel that their interests are a little bit unique compared to the people who's around them, and they just want that, they feel as if they want that need to fit in, and parents will report that at home they can get home and really hit crisis point because it's so exhausting if you think all day trying to hold it together and be someone you're not, rather than just being your true self. If a child in school feels that they are being mocked by the peer group who's around them, they will at times try really hard to be someone they're not, and like I said before, they do change who they are. They change their interests for where they feel that their interests would meet with the peers and they'd be accepted by their peers. At times, what I've also come across is, a child who, it can be really tough to speak out in class for any child, for any of us, but the child who really doesn't want to put forward their answer if, open questions what's in the class, and that can be because, they're really worried of failure and causing them anxiety, but almost have they interpreted the question the same way as everybody else? Is their answer going to be laughed at if they've processed that question a little bit different to the rest of their peers? So what you might find is, or even if their opinion's different to the peers, they wait to see what the rest of the group comes back with. And even if their initial answer was totally different to what the rest of the group was, they'll change it because they want to fit in with that peer group and be accepted. You may also, in a mainstream setting, in a large group of children, a young person who's got many different peer groups and they dot around from peer group to peer group trying to find somewhere where they feel they fit and they're accepted. As well, this can bring on its own difficulties because the child who's masking is trying to take on traits of another child who they deem as who people accept. The other children, other pupils, don't always understand why this is happening, and I've seen it myself at times where they've become a little bit agitated that the child's come in the next day and they've got the same shoes or the same makeup and they're trying to mimic that person, and it's just their coping mechanism. So supporting a child in school who's masking, again, it can be as difficult as looking at the traits of masking in school. Many young people are just feel quite happy just continuing as they are and masking and getting through the day and not making the link that this can really lead to exhaustion and burnout and mental health difficulties, and it really does cause much longer term implications and problems for our young people. I would say the key thing is to make that child feel safe and secure in that environment, and through key workers in schools start to build those important relationships where the young person starts to relax and the young person starts to feel safe and secure in school, and at least opening up to one or two key workers about the difficulties they face on a day-to-day basis. I think once you've got that point, we can then start to talk through with the young person. It's okay to be yourself. We're all different. We're all unique. We all have our own different ways. We absolutely do. And it's about accepting each other for who we are. And I think the key with that is in your school, in your classroom, is building a culture of where everybody's inclusive, everybody's the same, we celebrate who we are, what we are and the differences, and you know, we really celebrate the uniqueness of each and every young person. It's the subliminal messages too around the environment, you know, where it could be something on a notice board where it's saying it's okay to be who you are, we're all different, those kind of messages. Tutorial sessions and PSHE sessions, both group and one-to-one sessions, are an ideal time to really target in a very generic way any topics you want to cover. So you know, you might do some specific one-to-one talking, which we discussed earlier with the young people, but in a more of a group setting through a PSHE activity, you may start to look at different cultures, different people, who we are, how we're all different, and it's okay to be different because we're all different. You might want to use a range of guest speakers coming into school who can tell their story of journey they've travelled to get to the point they're at, but also visits out in the community, so you know, our young people can see just how diverse our communities are and how it's so important to embrace it and celebrate it. All of this builds self-confidence in our young people, and you know, day by day, part by part, getting them to accept themselves, because that's a huge thing. Acceptance for all. Patient, consistent approach from all staff, so we're all giving the same message to our young people, giving them time and space to process what's going on around them, to process their own feelings, also helps. It's also, when the time's right, it's really, really important that our young people have a voice, and they should have a voice from day one, but not every young person wants to use it. And it's giving them a vehicle to which they can actually use that voice and get their voice heard. And there's, you know, that doesn't have to be sitting in a class and putting their opinions forward. There's many, many different ways. It can be done through anonymous post boxes where they can put their opinions forward. They can notes to a teacher or a TA, speaking to a parent at home who can pass on any messages, speaking to a best friend, asking the best friend to pass on any concerns and messages. Support for parents too, or carers, is also really crucial and really important as well, because they don't always understand what's going on, you know, or what even the term masking actually means. I think, as with any child in school, it's really important that you know, you really foster and maintain those good relationships with parents and carers, because really at times they are the voice of the child, until that child feels strong enough to come forward themselves. And you know, I do feel as if parents and carers, it's important that they're heard and their opinions, what they put forward, are listened to and acted upon. Also, parents and carers, you know, there are groups out there who can support them. I would always advise that they have a look at their local community and see what support groups are out there. And to join groups, there's groups on Facebook and other social media platforms. You don't have to be an active member. You can just listen and take from it what you feel will support you and your family and your child and their siblings too. Further support for parents would also to be ensure that real close communication between school and home, so that parents are able to come to school and let you know what's going on, how they're feeling, and you can report to parents how things are going in school, because remember, the child you might see or the pupil in front of you at school may be very, very different to the pupil that parents may be seeing at home, and it's really important that that communication continues to build the fuller picture of how best to support that young person. Also keeping in mind any other multi-agency professionals who support, and open communication is the key.